On today's episode of the Slide Experience podcast, we discuss mental toughness mindset. My guest today has over 35 years of experience in sales, marketing, personal development, and mindset mastery. He is a speaker and a multi-million dollar earner that is seeking to change the world with one tough mind at a time. Please welcome my guest, Mr. Tony Fleming, to the show.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank
how are
you.
you doing?
Good. Did you say 35 years? Wow.
Was it 35 or 25? You tell me.
Well, I think this shows is 35. So it's 35. If you
It's
add if you add all my corporate
30.
sales and then me in the home-based business arena, yeah, because I did, let me see, I did about 9 years in corporate sales and
Okay.
then home-based business arena was the rest. So yeah, man, God,
Yeah, so
time
you've
just blew by.
been So let's get into this conversation. I'm excited. So thank you for saying yes. I usually typically answer. I want to make sure that all of my guests feel welcome and comfortable. But I definitely appreciate you taking out the time to speak with me today and my listeners. And so I wanted to know, like, tell me more about your journey up until this point. So I do know about the sale. So tell me about, before you actually decided to do what you're doing now.
Before you, well, I'm still in the home-based business arena. So before that, that was 20 some years ago. I was in corporate America. I worked for the Atlanta Journal newspaper as a account executive. Now you got to go back to the late '80s, early '90s, where the paper was huge. Paper's not big anymore. I don't think anybody is really reading the paper anymore. But the Atlanta Journal was a huge paper, and I got that account executive position almost right out of college. I probably had to go about a year and a half of getting some sales experience because I did an interview with them, and they said, "Well, you don't have any sales experience." I said, "Well, this is a catch-22. I just got out of college, so how am I going to have sales experience?" They said, "Well, that's going to be up to you." So I actually went out and there was a company in Atlanta that was called the Black Pages, and it was a large magazine that came out like every month, I think, or maybe every quarter. It might have been every quarter, but it was black owned and it was all black businesses. And so I met a guy at a expo. He owned the paper, and I said, "Man, I need to get some sales experience. Can I start with you?" And he said, "Yeah, but it's 50% straight commission. I'm not giving any salaries." And I was like, "I don't care. I just got to get sales experience." So I did that with the Black Pages for about a year, and then called the Atlanta Journal back, and they said, "Okay." So I came in and got it. I mean, I had a great position there, and then I worked there for about 4 years, and then 5 years with AT&T as a account executive selling their phone systems. So I sold a big, units in corporate in the buildings where I sold 200 or 300 sets at a time or 1,000 sets at a time, and then I got into home-based business.
Home-based business. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I mean, based off of, and I asked that question, to get to know like how where you were in your mindset then, to say, hey, I want to actually start podcasting and just, you know, tread the waters in something a little bit different than what you were doing before. Because I see a lot of podcasters or business owners that have sales backgrounds. They decide to go into
Mm-hmm.
real estate and they do all these things, and I know we've talked offline about your experience um in marketing, right?
Okay. Okay. So I didn't know we were talking about the podcast because if that was the case, I wouldn't have gone way back that far. I thought you were talking about before I got in the home-based business arena. Okay, so with podcasting, that came about 2.5 years ago. Maybe it was on my mind before that. And I think what happened, God had to sit me down. So I had a foot wound at the bottom of my foot. Now I'm in the gym every day, exercising, doing weights, I'm out on trails walking 5 or 6 miles a day, uh, eating right and everything. So how do I get a foot wound? I'm not diabetic. None of that's going on. So I think somebody to sit me down. I had 2 foot surgeries. So I was sitting around. I couldn't walk. I had a boot on. And, my doc was like, the second surgery was because I was walking too much on the first one. He's like, man, you want to get your foot cut off? I was like, no. He said, well, sit still. And so while I was sitting there, I thought, maybe I can start a podcast that I've been thinking about. And let me turn this mic on and turn my laptop on and start talking. I didn't know, I still don't know a lot about podcasting, but I knew that I could talk and I knew I could, grab some people I could interview. And so I did it. In the mid 90s, I was me and my partner had a sports agency business. And I had we probably represented about 5 or 6 guys that went to the league. So I knew these guys. So I called them up and I said, man, can you do an interview with me? I'm starting a podcast. And they said, yeah. So I had a couple of athletes that started off with me, and it was about mental toughness, but a lot of people thought it was some kind of sports page or something because I had 2 athletes. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just getting started. Let me get started because I'm going to have everybody on here, attorneys, doctors, anybody who's gone through, anybody who's had success have to go through this mental toughness stage. You know what I'm saying? Because you got challenges that goes on all the time, even when you win it. So that's why I named it, my mental toughness pod. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I was just I was sitting around, had these 2 surgeries, and I might as well just, sit up here and put my foot up and turn the mic on.
I was going to ask you that. So that was an interesting story. So mental toughness was originally started with you actually interviewing athletes.
Yeah, because those are the guys I knew. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, I know these guys, and I know that they have had to go through some stuff. So I interviewed, matter of fact, 2 football players that went to the league and played for a while, 6, 7 years. I also interviewed a black race car driver, and I met him in a class that I was taking. It was a course that I was taking on public speaking. Steve Siebel has a public speaking class, and Steve lives in Atlanta. He has a big mansion, and he has a building in the back of his house where he does the public speaking training. And so this guy was there, and so we became, we changed numbers, but it was almost, 4 years later that I decided to call him when I was, doing the podcast and making our interviews. Yeah, okay.
Good. I mean, so even with that, and I wanted to ask you about the whole trails thing. Just I'm a double back in a minute about
Okay.
something, but so because I noticed that you do now, based off of me watching a few of your episodes and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of like talking about different things. So tell me, like, okay, how you make a transition for talking about mental toughness from athletics or in the sports world to just everyday conversation.
Well, here's the thing. Everybody that I interviewed, in my mind, I always start off the podcast saying that I believe that they had some success in their life. And anybody who has success has to go through that mental toughness. Now, my point of the podcast is for people to listen and pull that out of it. I'm not seriously asking them mental toughness questions the whole time. I'm just talking to them about what they did and how they got to the point they got to. And so, like yesterday, I interviewed 2 sharp ladies and I actually met them at the podcast summit. They have hair salons. One lady had about 6 or 7 hair salons in Atlanta, and the other was in DC. But the one in Atlanta moved to DC, and they partnered, and they've made tremendous amount of money, had tremendous amount of success. And as I was interviewing them, I was telling my listeners before, pick up the nuggets, because successful people drop nuggets all the time. And a lot of it has to do with mental toughness. You know what I'm saying? Because, I got right here written on my, it's actually on my lamp. I wish I could turn my camera around and see it. But if I move my camera, it won't get back right. So, but it says here, mental toughness is not wanting to do it, but do it anyway. So it's a lot of things that people don't want to do. I was watching something with what's the billionaire brother that he's the only one that's not an entertainer
Robert
or
Smith.
yeah, Robert
Robert
Smith.
Smith.
So Robert Smith was talking about he told a story about uh, he had an intern that he hired. Might not have been an intern, might be somebody he just hired to work with his company. And on a Friday, he was at the office. Him and another of his partners was there working, and the guy came in and he worked with him up to about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. I mean, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And then he said he had to go because he was taking his wife to dinner and all that. So he left. Um, but when he went to dinner that late on that night, he realized he had left his briefcase over at the office. So he came back that morning to get his briefcase. Mm-hmm. Guess who was still in the office?
He was.
No, Robert Smith and his partner was still there. Oh. The guy who left came back and they were still there. And Robert Smith was thinking, now, I know I'm a billionaire and my partner is super wealthy. If I was in his position, I would have had to call my wife and say, we ain't going to dinner. I'm here with a billionaire. We're going to be here. I'm going to be here all night with them. I'm not leaving. See, that's a mental toughness thing there. That's where you have to say, okay, I'm going to make this thing happen. I'm going to do it because I'm right here. Maybe something you don't want to do, but do it anyway.
Right.
You know, so that happens in business. It happens in athletics. It happens in anything you do. You know, with you starting your podcast, I'm sure you've done some stuff that I don't want to do this, but I got to do it. That's mental toughness.
Yeah. I mean, for me, even the podcast, I think it was a person, my personality. The thing about that was I just didn't want to be in front of a camera because I even have a minor in communications, radio, television, and broadcasting. And I didn't want to be in front of any camera, but it came down to the simple fact of someone telling me, if you want to scale and grow anything now regarding, you know, your business or any type of social outside of just being inside of a brick and mortar, you need to be either on YouTube or someone needs to see your face. So I literally had to toughen up, like you said. So I was like, hey, go ahead and just hit play.
Yeah, right. And see, here's the thing. I would say 90% of the country won't do that. That's that mental toughness thing they got to have, and they just won't. It's a mindset. It's a mental toughness. It's early childhood programming from 0 to 7. What we learned during that time has programmed us for the rest of our life. And most of the time, the only way you can change that is you got to read books because it gives you a new perspective on life. You got to get in a different environment to even know that the conditioning you have is what, you know, that program that's running all day long. This is stuff that you learn because that, you know, from 0 to 7, that's the clean slate on, you know, so everything that you hear, that's how you learn how to walk because you following your parents or you following somebody and you hearing things. So, but you have to change that because when you start reading, you get a new perspective, and then your goals and dreams that you have, you got to say, am I going to stick with this that I was taught years ago, or am I going to change?
Yeah.
But guess what? If you never pick up a book, a mindset, a leadership book that you see a different perspective, when you hear something, you're going to say, it's almost like it's like your brain. It's like when you hear something, your brain goes, it's searching for that. And it doesn't find it, so it kicks it out. It's like, oh, that's a scam. That ain't going to work. You got to put some stuff in there so that you can deprogram and reprogram.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's more so just like inside of books, it allow you to go to a place that you never would have thought to go in the first place, right? So yes, you gain another different perspective, but it allows you to open your mindset, like you said, to a totally different way of seeing it because everything in life has two sides, right? So you have a left and a right, up and down, you know,
yin and yang.
Right. So what you were taught as a kid based off of your parents' experience is totally different what the world is going to bring you. So you're not if you're
And
not
guess
exposed,
what? Guess what your parents was taught from their parents. And think
right,
about this. And think about
right.
this. If you live in an environment, and most people, uh, you can gauge success from the zip code they live in, and they do that a lot. They study people from their zip codes, and they know that if you grew up in this zip code, uh, what do you call it? Uh,
Demographics.
upper class poverty.
Mm.
You got upper class
Middle class.
poverty. Then you
They
got
call it
middle
middle.
class. What I'm saying, you got middle class, then you got upper class poverty. And if it's not a wealthy community, what kind of perspective are you going to get from your teachers, from your parent? I mean, from your pastor, from that kind of perspective. Those people, and I'm not, I grew up that way. So my mother used to always say to me, she said, "How a child like mine come up out of my house thinking like the way you think?" I said, "Ma, I didn't come out of your house thinking this way. I came up out of your house thinking the way you were thinking. I
Mm.
changed those thoughts from getting new perspectives and reading different books. So, because every time I used to talk to her about things, as I was growing and, making money and doing business, and she just thought it was that's just not. I remember when I quit AT&T. Oh my God, you would have think that the world, because see, when I got the job at AT&T, she was going around the neighborhood passing out cars. My son working at AT&T. My son working at, see, that was her thing, boy. I work at AT&T. When I told her I was quitting AT&T and starting a home-based business, and I was
You
going,
hurt her feelings.
have you lost your mind? What is wrong with you? That
You
good
gonna say
job,
good job.
that good job with benefits. I said, Ma, I can pay for my benefits. You know, my insurance. Yeah, I can get insurance. No, it ain't gonna be the same. Yes, it is. I can pay for that. I can do all those things. You know what I'm saying? But to her and her program and the way she grew up, I have lost my mind. My
Mhm.
mother, she's a special individual. I love her to this day. She's 90 years old,
Oh,
uh, still kicking,
still kicking. That's a
still kicking. Yeah, yeah,
that is a blessing. That is, and
yeah.
then, and there's another side. So, like for your experience, it's totally different from mine. And so,
Mm-hmm.
my mother died when she was 29. I was 12. So for me, I
Wow.
had to actually, based off of that experience, I had to make a decision then who I wanted to become. So I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
be a prodigy of my environment because everything around me, even though she was trying her very best to place us in a totally different environment, but my environment said totally something totally different. Teenage
Right.
pregnancy, dropout, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the mindset even then that I wanted to do way more and be way more than what my environment said I had to become. So with you, it was, your mother was like, hey, you don't quit this thing. For me, it was like
Right.
you define that thing
Right.
and
Right. Right.
and
Right.
just keep moving and keep motivating. So that was my
But watch this. I
yeah,
bet you. I bet you a lot of people from your community didn't think the way you thought.
of
So
course
what
not.
you did, was different than most people think, and that's what I'm talking about. You can judge a person. I ain't gonna say judge. You can kind of look at where their life is going from the zip code, unless they, decide to change it and start doing different things, which most people don't. They use it as an excuse. They'll say, "Well,
Mhm.
I grew up, and what's going on here." So.
Well, then you also judged even by your peers and your family members, but because you want more than what they want. But that's a whole nother
Mhm.
different story, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like what you said. Not wanting not wanting to do what but do it anyway. If you don't
Doing it
want to,
away. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so it's like almost do it
yeah,
scared. It's so
yeah.
you can't be afraid to do something that you feel like you want to do
Right.
because it never a change. Your life never
Mike
changes.
Tyson. Mike Tyson. I saw him do an interview. Probably, I don't know, it was about 6 weeks. Imagine Who would think that Mike Tyson would be where he is now? The person that he is. I mean, Mike was the I'll eat your heart out, I'll eat your children, what I'm saying? And now he's knowledgeable, he's kicking out some good common sense. Mike has picked up a few books, he's changed his environment altogether. And so you can literally see that. So a person can do that, but they have to want to, and they have to get the right tools around them. A lot of people get caught up in the educational system, and that's not what it's about. I don't knock it. I got a college degree, but I don't think that's how a person really makes it in this world, especially now. That thing doesn't really mean much at all. And I'm not saying a person shouldn't go to college. If they can go, please go. If they can get that education, get it. But I think that people use it in the wrong way. I mean, you get education, you should come out and start a business, start doing something, at least a part-time business somewhere, doing something, instead of just saying you're going to lock into a corporation that doesn't love you, that's not going to be there for you. They come in at any time.
Yeah, I think I'm on two. I'm on the fence with that one, but I totally understand. That's what I'm actually. I speak a lot when I go to colleges and universities, and I'm speaking. It's like, hey, while you're here, take advantage of internships and co-ops and getting to know, what you want to do. Find the owner, the CEO of that company, and learn.
Yes.
And don't just sit here and party. Yeah, we have fun, but at the same time, utilize that time, because I don't believe in you have time. Your time is to actually network and get to know what you don't know, so you can actually make $1 million by by 25, 26. But yeah, I mean, the opportunities, they're coming out making money way faster than what we did, becoming millionaires way sooner than we did. So
look, I just interviewed a lady on my pod about last week sometime, and she's a school teacher. I've been knowing her for years. She teaches at Shaker Heights up in Cleveland, and I told her, this was 6 years ago, she started this class in the high school, teaching about how to balance a checkbook, how to get your finance together, taxes, insurance. And I told her, I said, I give you 2 weeks, they're going to shut it down. You ain't going to get away with that. They're not going to let you teach that in the school. 6 years later, she still, when I interviewed her, I said, I got to put my foot in my mouth, because you definitely did it. And she's still doing it. And she named 2 or 3 kids that came up out of her class that are now making millions of dollars from the business they started. She makes sure that in her class, they have to start a business. I don't care if it's candle making. I don't care what it is. You got to start, because when she tell them about an LLC or business, she's really breaking down to them the tax advantages of it. I mean, everything. And I still don't believe that a high school is letting her get away with that. And it's 6 years later and she's still doing it. They are lined up a couple of years in advance to get in her class. I mean, she's really teaching it.
I actually had an instructor, he was an instructor, professor in our accounting class. He would taught that whole concept as well. But I think
high school.
Yeah, we had a high school class. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how I learned, because I was like, here I am, not knowing anything, but I still need to know how to manage money, and just keep a checkbook. So even today, I still keep a checkbook.
I got you.
Balance my checkbook. And I think that's the pattern of learning how to keep up with your taxes, right? Just how much money you're spending. So it also leads to that thing too. So that's great that she's even doing that in 2024. So yeah, I mean,
watch this. She's doing it so well that the kids' parents are calling her and wanting to get into the classes. So she's doing some online stuff for them now, because the kids are bringing it home to their parents, and their parents are like, where are you getting that from? So I
believe that. That's why I started. Yeah. That's why I pivoted from my education consulting agency, because parents were asking me, well, how are you doing this? How did you start your business? And it just started me actually helping them open their businesses and things like that. So yeah, knowledge is key. People want to know what they don't know. And so now that you've been exposed to so many things so quickly with internet and Instagram and all these things, we're learning it, especially those, if you're over 40.
Right.
Our learning system was different. So
Yeah, totally different. Yeah.
yeah. So let me ask you a question, because what books are you reading? Because you mentioned books and all that. So I'm interested. What are you reading right now?
Oh my God. I've read over 500 books, and I thank God that I read most of them before social media or the internet. Because social media, internet, boy, you have to really, it's got my life operating like an algorithm. So I'm jumping over here doing this, jumping over here doing just like you scrolling on social media, Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. You scrolling and you doing something else doing. So my reading now, I have to force myself to take. This is what I do. I do a 15-minute on my phone. I set the timer, read for 15 minutes, or I say I'm gonna read 10 pages before I stop. Before that, man, I can sit down. Before I'm really going back. Before cell phones, before cell phones, before the internet, but you could actually sit down and really read, and it's like you can relax. You ain't got to worry about somebody just blowing your phone up. You don't have to worry about jumping on the internet, checking stuff and all that. So I read so many books, but now I still read a lot. I read more than probably 95% of the country now. The book that I'm reading now is a reread, because what I do also, I'm a part of a company that I do a mindset mental toughness call in the mornings for that company only. And so we also have a book club in that company, but it's private. So the book that we're reading now is actually a reread of The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy. And this is one of my favorite books, to a point where, I probably read it 3 times, but every time I go back, it's something that I missed or I didn't see that I'm highlighting now. So, we are talking about uh, the affirmations that you should be saying, the vision board that you should have up, and how you keep doing it. See, the key is staying consistent. You got to stay consistent with your affirmations. You got to stay consistent with your vision board, and looking at it on a daily basis. So that's one of the books. I mean, but if you want to ask me, probably I'll say, if you ask me my top 5 books, um, I think I've moved one out. I moved one up. So Think and Grow Rich used to be my number one, but I've moved that back some. My number one book now is How Rich People Think. It's by Steve Siebel. It's called How Rich People Think. Number 2 is The Alchemist, which I love that book. Read it a couple of times. 3 would be, let's see.
Napoleon Hill.
No, I moved that back. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
push
you moved
that
it
back
back.
some. Yeah, I pushed that from number 1 back. It's past my 5. It ain't even my top 5 anymore.
Yeah.
I would say another Steve Siebel book is called the 177 Mental Toughness Laws. I think that's what it's called. 177 Laws of Mental Toughness. That would be 3.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give you 2 more. Let me see. I do like Napoleon Hill book, Outwitting the Devil. That was
Mm.
I'll put that in there. And 5 would be as soon as I finish, I'm gonna think of plenty more. It'd be like just like asking me my top 5 rappers. But I'm saying so let me think of 5. Relentless. Man.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's my 5.
Oh, okay. So we have something in common. A lot of
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but most people do that's in this particular space. So,
Yeah.
um, is it okay if I get into some money business with you? I have an episode, or part of my episode is that it's
Hmm.
like getting into your money business, especially when I'm talking
Okay.
to somebody that is of your stature.
Okay.
So, how old were you when you made your first million?
Uh well, see, I can't, I would say,
You made it and you lost it and made it back.
oh yeah, 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 I definitely did that. I'm gonna tell you that for sure. But I'm trying to calculate. are you talking about annually, or you talking about the total combined a million?
So just think about, yeah, like when you actually,
All
how old
right,
were you when you said, you know what, oh my God, I made a
I just
million
made $1 million.
dollars.
So
Yeah.
I had to be 31.
Okay.
Yeah, 31.
And you lost it when?
I ran through it. I put it that way. But I'm gonna tell you something. I'm probably when I got married. But I'm telling you something. But I'm what you call a kind of frugal guy. People around me say I'm tight. You know, my mom used to say that all the time. She said, by the time that dollar come out of your hand, all the green is off of it because you done held it on so tight. There ain't no green left on it. You know, so so uh I went through it, but I lived off of it too. So for example, uh this one company I was involved in from, I would say, 97 to 2000, I probably made a good 500 grand, maybe 600 grand in those 3 years. And plus the years before that, I had made, 400. So that gives me that million there. If you put those 5 years together, and or 4 years together, but that company went out of business. And so I probably still had 250,000, 300 saved. Now, a businessman, which I'm gonna say this, I'm not a businessman. All right. I'm just gonna say that. And I've been saying this for years. I'm a teacher. I'm not a
Okay.
coach. I'm not a coach. I'm not a mentor to people that they say I'm a teacher. And I figured that out when one of my partners came up to me one day and said that, because it was so crazy. My mother and father were both educators. And I
Okay.
said I'll never be a teacher. I'm talking about in the school. But I guess I picked that up from them. So I was not a business guy. Would have took that 300 grand and figured out how to flip it and make it turn into other businesses.
Right.
I didn't trust people, and I didn't know anybody who really, I had guys doing real estate, but I just didn't trust them because I had lost probably 25 grand in two bad real estate deals. So I didn't
Mm.
want to do that. Could have started like an all state agency, because I think you can get started with one of those for a little, 75 grand
30,000.
or something. Yeah, okay. See, but I didn't do that either. What I did was I did live off that money for about 3 years. So I didn't really do anything from maybe end of 1999 to about 2003. Really didn't do it. I was just living off the money. So I bought a condo. I did buy a condo. See, I did invest in that. I bought me a condo that I could resell later on when we built the house. But I lived comfortably off that money because I was, single.
Huh.
I'm good. So I did. I
So
did. I just didn't go out and buy big cars and all that. Even though later on I did buy the BMWs, the Benzes, the. I mean, I did go.
all of
Yeah, I
that.
went. I went in on that. Yeah.
So your car guy.
So yeah.
So considering that you still had a little bit of the money, and considering of your
Mm-hmm.
relationships and your trust issues, right,
Mm-hmm.
or
Right.
concerns,
Right.
so we
Right.
call that,
Right.
when did you say, you know what, I need a mentor? Because I know even in this space I have several mentors. So do you
Mm-hmm.
have a mentor? I know you said you're actually in the inner
Well,
circle.
yeah, I've only had one mentor in my life, and that came about like during the time uh, the company I was in that went out of business after 3 years. He was my mentor in that company. And one thing he did tell me to do, and I did it, was buy a house. He said, go buy a house. I bought a condo. He got mad at me. He's like, I
That's
said,
not a
buy a
house.
house. Yeah, I'm saying, to me, I didn't want a house. I just wanted a place that I could uh,
Low
purchase.
maintenance.
Yes. And I'm gonna be there. I remember I didn't know how shocked he was till he came over, him and his wife. He's like, hey, I told you to buy a house. I'm like, this house. I'm like, it's a condo. I'm living here and I can resell it. I can, Um, so I did do that, but and he's the guy who got me into reading too. So I thank God for that. But he's passed now. So I thank God for that. But because it wasn't for him. I was reading, but I wasn't reading thought provoking, mindset, mental toughness type books. I was reading, like I read one of my favorite books was Autobiography of Miles Davis, which is, man, that book is powerful. Uh, I had read, Malcolm X book, and I read a few other autobiographies, but I wasn't reading any thought provoking leadership, John Maxwell, and all that kind of stuff until he introduced me. And he really introduced me to God, I'm going blank. I'm having one of my Biden moments here. I was trying to think of this one author that I probably bought 9 of his books. It'll come to me in a minute. So I did learn that much from him.
Okay.
Was, get a house.
So no major, so like your Tony Robbins, I know right now Myron Golden is all over the place with people, like anything like that. Podcast Summit, are you in the podcasting world? Are you in that type of environment?
I watch all those guys. I look at, I follow their information and look at their information. I remember when Myron started years back, I have to give him a big ups because this brother has come from, he really did it. He really set this thing on fire, and I have to give him credit for that.
He is doing it, and he is, he is definitely doing it.
Because he kind of started during the time I was starting around that time, so I remember him, and to see where he's taking it. I mean, you really got to give him some kudos because he's really doing it. You know what I'm saying? But Tony Robbins, I read his books. I even read The Art of the Deal by Trump before Trump became the other Trump. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, you're right. So, I follow all those guys. I follow David Shan. I look at him. See, I knew Donnie from Donnie was in a business with me, one of my home-based businesses together.
And, I saw you just interviewed her. I saw.
I did that. I called up and she gave me an interview. That's cool. So I've known her probably since 2016. A friend of mine who was in the business with me, it was her friend. So she brought her into business, but me and her worked together for a couple of years. So, I remember one day listening to her podcast. She said something like, well, people don't call me and ask me. I said, okay, let me call her. Let's see. She said, yeah. So we did a great interview.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you connected at the podcast summit because she was just walking all over. But
no, we had done that interview probably 6 months before that. I'm just breaking off clips now, putting them out.
That's good. That was smart. That's very smart.
See, if you heard me, I don't know if you heard me ask the guy that was on stage. I can't think of his name now. The light-skinned guy that he does a lot of interviews, and they like him for his quality of video that he has.
Omar?
Yes, Omar. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, I said, what's up with the videos when you load them? Some of them allow you to remix and some of them don't. I don't know if you remember that question. And he looked at me like, why are you remixing? Why do you even need that? He said, so, he uses, he told me an app to use. Now, here's my challenge with the app. I actually already had that app. Otis something.
They do your shorts. Mm-hmm.
Right. But here's my challenge with that. And maybe you can answer that since we're on here talking.
Okay.
If you use that on your phone, right? How can you, if you have an hour video on YouTube, you can't transfer that to your app. It's too big. So how are you going to transfer it from YouTube to your phone? How are you going to move? You can't do it because it's too big.
You don't have to transfer. So what happens is you have the option to take the clips. Because so like for me, if I'm on, there's certain clips that I want to use because they're only like anywhere between 23 seconds. It has to be under a minute, right? Mm-hmm. So You wanting the whole podcast, or you just want the
Right,
clip?
because the sales point of the, what is it called? Opus
Opus
Clips.
clips, uh-huh.
Yeah, is you can take long form video and
Right.
break it up in clips.
Yes.
So long, what's long form video? It can't be a minute. Long form video's got to be
So
30,
like
40 minutes.
okay, so for example, so this podcast session with us would end up being over right now, let's just say 30 minutes. So I can
Okay.
actually take this podcast statement, which is what I will do, and I'll put it into I can put it in Opus Clips or
But how?
Medium.
What? How are you gonna
So
put it in from your phone?
I don't have to. I don't. So I actually record on my computer, but I would be able to if I wanted to take this. I use my a hard drive, so my hard drive would transfer it for me, and
But
I can
how do
actually
you?
download everything to my phone from my hard drive. But I don't use the whole entire thing. So you want to use a hard drive. You don't want to keep it on your phone, but it'll chop it up for you, and then you can actually put certain clips on your phone if you want to use it later for downloads or what have you.
We're gonna have to talk afterwards. You can tell me that
Yeah,
because
we'll
I'm
talk.
trying to figure out how do you use Opus Clips on a laptop. I don't.
Yeah. I
That's
use
pretty
it on my
cool.
laptop. I also have yeah, we'll talk.
See,
So
that's you got to show me that. Yeah. Okay.
so tell me like what's next? So you're podcasting right now.
hmm
I know that you are a speaker. And so like what is next for Mr. Fleming and the podcast? What
Well, my goal is to start getting more speaking engagements. Now, I've been speaking for years, but it was all in the home based business arena.
okay.
So I've spoken in front of 5,000, 10,000 people, 100 people, but I haven't stepped out of that arena. Well, I have a little bit because I've been going through the Atlanta school system and speaking a little bit. But my goal is to get out into corporate America and speak and teach on sales because I got that experience from years and I've been doing it. And I was highly successful uh, with AT&T and with the Atlanta Journal. I was, I won everything you could win there. I was a top salesperson and all that. So I want to get into corporate America. That's my plan. Not want to. I'm about to. I'm about to get in corporate America. I just set up my website about 3 months ago. So it's TonyFlemingSpeaks.com. TonyFlemingSpeaks.com. And not just going into corporate America, but into the school systems. I want to get into some of these school systems where I can speak to not just the kids, but also the teachers, the faculty, all of that. Because I got a lot to say. I
Got a
really
lot to
do. I mean,
say.
all the years I've been doing this, what I'm saying? Think about this. I hadn't had a job, a physical paycheck from a job since 1995.
That's
Everything I've earned, I had to get out and kill every day. And I've made a lot of money doing it. So I think I do know a little bit about, how you need to win in life. You know what I'm saying? So that's why
yeah.
I say I got a lot to say about that. I got a lot to say.
So
I
are you
see a lot of
monetized?
people.
Are you making money from your podcast now considering
Not
it's
right
new?
now. Not nope. Because I told you, I don't know how. All I did was grab the microphone and turn on the laptop and start talking. I still don't know. I still don't know. Going to the summit, I learned some things, but I'm gonna tell you something. It is a lot of stuff that people don't want to tell you. You know what I'm saying? When you get to, they get to a certain level, they're like, they just not gonna get it, release the info. Now,
Mhm.
being on the program, I'm sure if you did you sign up for anything else with David? Why are you looking like that?
I know you were going to ask me that question.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying that I shouldn't. I'm not saying that that I shouldn't do it. I just didn't do it.
yeah,
So, but
that's good.
maybe that's what the information is. He's a podcast guy. So,
So we're gonna focus on podcasting and your speaking. And
mhm.
so you wanted to get on bigger stages because that's where your experiences are.
Right,
And so
right,
in sales,
right.
so you want to speak about sales and you're speaking about, all your
All of
experience.
that,
Okay, great, great. Okay.
all of that.
So
But
where can
but I'm still in the home based business arena too. So, I don't.
When you
It's
say
almost
home-based business, you said that. What do you do in home? Because home-based business can be anything. That can be real estate. That can be, I mean, you can be
network
working
marketing.
network
Network marketing.
marketing.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Network marketing. So you're
Been
still
doing that.
doing network marketing.
Yep.
Old
I
school
can't get
way.
it away from it. Well, I do it online. I do it the way that, you know, that's trending now, the way everybody does it. But, it's like I've been doing it so long, can't get away from it. So
And that's where your bread and butter is coming from right now.
that and doing the remember I told you I do the private sessions for this company.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Okay.
that yeah,
So
I
my
get I
listeners,
get I get I get a little bit from that group, but more mainly, yeah, I get a little bit from that group, but
yeah, I'm trying to
it
get
ain't a
in. I'm
lot.
trying to get in
Yeah,
the
I ain't trying
building.
to. I know what you say. Yeah,
Like, okay,
but
you're
I also
leading the end. I
I
need to
also had
win.
I also had a few investments. I also had some things going on, so you know, uh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, you don't have to. That's good. I'm
I
gonna get
got
it
you.
after
I got
recording.
you.
So,
All
where
right.
can the listeners find you? Where can I mean they can tap into your
Um,
podcast and all that good stuff?
Podcast is Elite, Elite, Psyche, Psyche. Most people don't spell psyche right, so just Psyche. And they said, "Well, why you name it Elite Psyche?" Well, most people's psyche is damaged out here. They psyche got damaged at an early age. So the goal is for you to become elite. And so when I interview people, a lot of those guys have this elite psyche. And so that's why I named it that. But it's called Elite Psyche, the Mental Toughness Show. So it's a combination of both. Elite Psyche, the Mental Toughness Show. It's on YouTube. Check me out there. Also on Instagram, I'm Mr. Tony Fleming at Instagram, TonyFleming. And you know, I probably got my biggest following still on Facebook because you got to understand, I started on Facebook in 2008, I think, and been there ever since. So the following I had as I was building my network marketing businesses were the people still there. I got a decent following on Instagram, but I told you how that happened. So,
Yes. And
you know
you
what I'm
need to,
saying?
I need that trick,
Yeah,
but I need to do
yeah,
it.
I'm just show you that. I had to show you that one. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Mr. Tony Fleming, and I'm on TikTok too, man. TikTok is I probably got 2,000. What's the TikTok? Is it friends or followers or what? What's it
I'm not
called?
on TikTok.
Oh, you're not on TikTok? What?
I'm not
You're
on
not on
TikTok.
TikTok? What?
No. No
you
thanks.
know, really? Okay, so I'm out there. I'm out there on TikTok. Just look for Tony Fleming. I put a
Okay.
lot of the podcast clips on TikTok also, where I have them
Okay.
on Facebook and Instagram.
I will put
You
it
know
all
what?
in
You
the
know what? I'm gonna tell you where I should focus more. And one of my lady friends keep telling me that is what's the business one? LinkedIn. Are you
okay,
on
yes.
LinkedIn?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay, yeah. So I'm on there, but I probably got about 5 posts on there, but I'm on LinkedIn. So
Well, I'm on LinkedIn for yeah, something different than this. So.
okay. I
For
got you.
several things, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I will definitely put your information in the show notes. So if those listening want to actually listen to your podcast, see what you have going on that's next,
Mm-hmm.
and even book you for speaking. I do like your website; it looks really good,
Mm-hmm.
and everything is there. Um, so we'll definitely be going to be touching base with you about that. So again, this has been another great episode of the Slight Ed Experience podcast, where successes lead you through education and determination. I am your girl, your host. And I am out for today. Thank you so much, Mr. Fleming, for saying yes.
So it'll be peace up, A Town down.